Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live and proudly, as always, from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. We have a very busy show in store for you because we have a lot to cover, but also later on in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Erin Skinner. She is running for New York State Supreme Court in the 7th Judicial District. She will be facing, there's 4 people running for 2 spots. And we'll explain that during the interview. Thank you for the waves, so you get a better idea. A couple of messages from viewers before we get into updates. First, from yesterday, I just missed this, towards the end of yesterday's show. This viewer is suggesting that you check your voter party. He said that he went to the polls. They said I was registered as a Democrat, and he said he registered as a Republican at the age of 18 years old and never changed that, and was told that he couldn't vote in local elections in the primary with Republican. And when he voted for Trump in the primary, he got a letter saying that his primary vote was not accepted. So double check, and we've talked about this in the past, double check your voter information, I believe. Let me see if I've got the right one here. Yes. This was from Steuben County Board of Elections, and you may have seen the promo. We have a very special broadcast coming up that we put together about voting and preparing to vote. But that is a very important website there. Look up officially to see if you are registered and what party, etc. And again, remember, early voting starts October 26th, but also if you look there to register to vote is also October 26th. So you can look up your information there and then get that process started if there are some issues. So thank you for that public service announcement from that viewer. Another viewer, this is from Jack, the bumper sticker guy. Thanks, Jack. Oh, if you're not an everyday viewer, Jack made some bumper stickers. Put them back up on the screen. Isn't that nice? Made those bumper stickers on here. Also one that most people couldn't use, but I can. Anti-mainstreamist news reporter inside, frankly speaking. That one's could get me in some trouble. And then the last one here, trying. So that's we appreciate Jack sending those in, and they received a great response. I sent a few out to viewers. He is excited, and he said thanks again for sharing them with the Frankly family. I like that, Frankly family. He is in Tennessee, and this is why he writes, early voting starts at 8 a.m. He's so excited. He messaged at 5 a.m. preparing for the early voting. I see Georgia. Oof. Georgia, record turnout and early voting. Again, here in New York State, begins on October the 26th. And as I mentioned, we will have that special coming up. There will be a promo during today's show for it, and I will make sure to mention it as it nears, which is on broadcast on Friday. I think you're going to want to catch that if you have any questions. Okay, let's get into some updates. This made the news cycle very early yesterday and then kind of dropped off the radar, but I find this fascinating because Nancy Pelosi and Joe Biden are giving each other the silent treatment. We know that Nancy Pelosi very instrumental in convincing, for lack of a better word, pressuring Joe Biden to leave the race. Joe Biden, a loyal Democrat for 50 plus years, having the Democrat elites oust him in what some have called a coup. Well, the former House Speaker confirmed that she has not spoken with the Commander-in-Chief since Pelosi led the final drive to force Biden to abandon his bid for re-election over the summer. And this ties in with something that I've talked about on this program, and it's just more of a mental mind game. I don't have an answer for you, and we will never really know the answer. But I somewhat jokingly suggest that Joe Biden wants Donald Trump to win. And the reason that would be is then when the smoke clears and Trump, if he were to win, Joe Biden can say, see, I told you I was the only one that could beat Donald Trump. I proved it. I did it before, and you guys didn't believe me. It's an ego thing here. And remember, Joe Biden, whatever you think of him, whether you voted for him, didn't vote for him, known to have an ego. So his ego telling him, look, I was the one that could do it. You didn't trust me. You ousted me. And now Donald Trump's there. I think it bolsters his legacy in the Democrat Party. Some believe differently, but they've already compared him to George Washington. But imagine if, wow, not only did he drop out because the Democrat elites told him he had to, which I guess is George Washington-esque, but he could have perhaps been the only one to stop a Trump White House. I think there's something in the back of his mind. You've got to wonder if it just a little bit where he says, that would be an interesting scenario for my legacy and a I told you so moment. Pelosi told the Guardian's Politics Weekly America podcast, a very catchy name, not since then, no. So really admitting that she was instrumental in that final drive to force him out. And sometimes she'd been a little, I know she was very mob movie-esque when she said, I did what I had to do, not completely admitting it. But in this case, she did. Not since then, no. I have the greatest respect for him. I think he's one of the great consequential presidents of our country. I think his legacy had to be protected. I didn't see that happening in the course that it was on, the election was on. Pelosi reportedly told Biden that if he did not step away from the race, she would go public with her belief that he could not defeat Donald Trump in November and release polling data to that effect. So again, imagine the ultimate I told you so if Harris is to lose. To say to Pelosi, I did it once. I beat Donald Trump once. I was the only Democrat that could do so. Hillary couldn't. Now Kamala Harris couldn't. Here we go. I told you so. That's got to be floating around in his brain. While Pelosi initially claimed she did not call one person during the turmoil, she has since admitted that people called me. Politics, huh, folks? Asked to further elaborate on her conversations with Biden before he dropped out, she said, my call was just to, let's get on a better course. He will make the decision as to what that is. And he made that decision. But I think he has some unease because we've been friends for decades. No one, Biden has publicly claimed that no one influenced his decision. No one knew it was coming. A number of my Democrat colleagues in the House and Senate thought I was going to hurt them in their races. And I was concerned if I stayed in the race, that would be the topic. You'd be interviewing me about why did Nancy Pelosi say something. And I thought it'd be a real distraction, he said back on August 11th. On July 10th, 2 days after Biden penned a letter to congressional Democrats saying he was firmly committed to the contest, Pelosi went on Morning Joe, which is rumored to be Biden's favorite television program. Probably just because, frankly speaking, doesn't reach the Washington market. But continuing saying, it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short. It's not for me to say. I'm not the head of the caucus anymore, but he's beloved, he's respected, and people want him to make that decision. Think of the irony there. We talked about it at the time. He had already penned a letter saying that he was firmly committed to the contest, and then Pelosi goes on Morning Joe and says he's got to make up his mind on this, doesn't he? So Pelosi telling The Guardian, elections are decisions. You decide to win. I decided a while ago that Donald Trump will never set foot in the White House again as president of the United States or in any other capacity. Wow. It's a lot of power that Pelosi believes she has. So when you make a decision, you have to make every decision in favor of winning. And the most important decision of all is the candidate. Then saying some nasty things about Trump. So as has been speculated, there's no love lost between the two. But Biden not happy with the way, because remember, he's always felt that the elites were keeping him down. He always thought the Democrat elites never believed in him to the level that they should. And that's throughout his whole career, not just during the presidency and his reelection campaign. That he always felt that the power brokers, the kingmakers, never had the faith in him that they should have. So that, again, plays into that ego question of whether or not he wouldn't at least be intrigued at the prospect of being able to say, I told you so, because not a big fan of the elites. Okay. We also have, how am I doing on time? Yes, I'm going to get to that letter to Israel. Let me give you this update just to get it out of the way. If you want to talk about her, we can, but I think this is definitely worth noting. Former Representative Liz Cheney talked to the House January 6th Select Committee's, quote, star witness behind her lawyer's back. These new damning texts released by a congressional committee show as part of an allegedly unethical move to have him replaced and handpicked attorneys more open to the committee's perspective, meaning the anti-Trump perspective. This should come as no surprise. Look, Liz Cheney goes down the path of, if she attacks Republicans, she can be on CNN. She can be on the Sunday morning shows. She must like that. She wants to be able to attack Trump. And I think there's not at this point, but points in her career where when Trump went against her, she lost embarrassingly in her reelection campaign. So there's a grudge there as well. But Cheney interacted with the witness, former Trump White House aide Cassidy Hutchinson, through ex-Trump Strategic Communications Director Alyssa Farah Griffith, and later directly in an effort to compel further testimony and have Hutchinson appear for a primetime televised hearing about the 45th president's culpability for the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. Though she worked behind the scenes to obtain Hutchinson's juiciest allegations in 2022, some of which were later found to be false, Cheney never mentioned the back-channel talks with Hutchinson or Griffin in her book, quote, and the irony of the name of her book now, Oath and Honor. House Administration Subcommittee on Oversight Chairman Barry Loudermilk, Republican from Georgia, who recently obtained the text messages from the trio, said the communications revealed Cheney, quote, apparently defied her ethical responsibilities while serving as vice chair on the January 6th Select Committee. Hutchinson began texting with Griffin in April of 2022, 2 months before the made-for-TV hearings aired, claiming she had additional evidence that might be relevant to the Select Committee's investigation. The two met at Griffin's Georgetown home and reportedly discussed that Trump had agreed with the Capitol mob's chance of hanging Mike Pence during the melee that temporarily halted the certification of the 2020 election count. In an April 28, 2022 message on the encrypted app Signal, Griffin acknowledged that it was unethical for Cheney to coordinate further testimony scheduled for May 17, 2022, without her then lawyer, Stefan Pasatino, present. I know this is all a little wonky, folks, but it points to a bigger question about the ethics and morals of Liz Cheney. Her one concern was, so long as you have counsel, she can't really ethically talk to you without him. The ex-White House aide testified for a third time the following month to the Democrat-led House committee, sharing several unverified stories, according to Loudermilk's panel. It was all that you recall at the time of private conversations, or this is my favorite. I overheard Trump talking to his family about X. And it's scandalous, and it's a bombshell. Hutchinson sent Signal messages directly to Cheney requesting a private conversation on June 6th, 2022, which is just 3 days before that televised hearing. Around that same time, Hutchinson rejected her counsel, Pasatino as her counsel, and lawyers from Alston and Byrd, Jody Hunt, and Bill Jordan began representing the former aide to White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows pro bono. The change-up elicited a dramatic change in testimony and eventual claims against President Trump using second and third-hand accounts. Hutchinson went to testify 3 more times before the January 6th committee. So not only has Liz Cheney made it a point to directly attack Trump, constantly attack Trump, but it also apparently, what the subcommittee has learned, it also meant unethical maneuvers to further this narrative that Trump was culpable for the January 6th riot. So if she really truly believed that he was, why do you then have to stack the deck in your favor and talk about, as Loudermilk said, second, third-hand accounts? Sometimes it's something as simple as, I overheard Trump talking to his family. Hardly a bombshell, but that's what that was based on. So again, oath and honor from Liz Cheney now comes into question. We've got to take a short break. Stay with us. We're just getting started. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Race car drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Just look at the difference. Look, ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99. But wait, Angel View may be discontinued. Due to rising costs, Angel View is stopping manufacturing effective immediately. Once the current inventory is gone, it's gone forever. Order now.
Call 1-800-897-0371 or visit getangelview.com. Order now.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless.
The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. If you recall, last week we had a great discussion about Proposition 1. Governor Hochul is out today, well, yesterday, with an op-ed in the Daily News suggesting that you vote yes for Prop 1 to protect our rights. Listen, and thank you to the viewer who sent this in. Listen to the way this is worded when you go to vote and how misleading it is. We've talked about the implications when it comes to something like illegal migrants potentially having the right to vote under this because you can't, quote unquote, discriminate against national origin. So everybody in the new group that they've added to this constitutional amendment would have the same laws as any American, or same, use of the same laws as any American citizen. We talked about it extensively. I am going to book another interview because I definitely want to highlight Proposition 1 because you will have an opportunity to vote for or against it. As our guests so eloquently put, even one who said she was not a Republican, saying that she's voting against it because of the implications, the lawsuits, where it can lead. But listen to how this is worded. Amendment to protect against unequal treatment. This proposal would protect against unequal treatment based on ethnicity, national origin, age, disability, and sex, including sexual orientation, gender identity, and pregnancy. It also protects against unequal treatment based on reproductive health care and autonomy. A yes vote puts these protections in the New York State Constitution. A no vote leaves these protections out of the state constitution. Thank you for passing that along. Again, we will have guests on the program. I'm even going to make another note. Right now, as we speak, I have a list of people. We already talked with a couple guests on it, and yes, I will make sure to have more information on Prop 1 for you. Governor Hochul saying you have to do it to protect your rights. It's quite the opposite, but this should come as no surprise. I'm not going to read the article to you. It focuses on abortion, of course, which is already, as our guest so eloquently put, we already have, quote-unquote, abortion rights in this state. Vote yes on Prop 1 to ensure these rights are protected for generations to come, Hochul said. No, the way it's worded, the addition, and I didn't have time because my desk is a mess to read what the actual language is because it's important. But again, so many specifically, if you want to just boil it down to this, you've got Governor Hochul and Democrats saying vote yes. You've got Republicans overwhelmingly saying vote no. We spoke to Senator George Borrello, as a matter of fact, on it last week. Okay, thank you for sending that along, by the way, to that viewer. All right, I have to mention this, and I know I'm running late, but about this Blinken's letter to Israel. The New York Post editorial board puts it this way. As Israel continues its multi-front war against Iran's proxy armies, the Biden administration has yet again stepped in to hinder the Jewish state and to aid Tehran. And remember Tim Walz saying yesterday or the day before, saying that they could, because of their leadership styles, change their position on the Middle East, and that's not a good thing. We've seen the weakening of support for Israel over and over again from Biden. What Walz is suggesting there is you'll have an even weaker stance supporting our ally Israel, with perhaps no stance supporting them. Be more calls for a ceasefire, more calls. They've tried to tie Israel's hands on this from the beginning and then complain that it's taking too long. It's really despicable, and it sadly shows the world how we treat our allies. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin have sent a joint letter demanding that Benjamin Netanyahu's government take, quote, urgent and sustained action to ensure humanitarian aid is getting into Gaza, giving Israel 30 days to comply or else face possible restrictions on arms sales at a crucial moment, a very crucial moment. It's the usual leftist lies, of course, says the New York Post. Israel has been ensuring that aid flows into Gaza while you have thugs there on the ground, Palestinian thugs, others, steal and hoard it. We know this. It's a story as old as time. In response to the administration's latest baloney, we'll say, the Israeli agency that manages aid flows posted images on X proving that aid is getting in. The letter also claims that Israel's security requirements on aid entry are too onerous, when in fact they're simply meant to make sure terrorists or criminals aren't sneaking in contraband. What's the problem with providing accurate manifests for the cargo and passport details for the personnel entering the war zone? Remember, too, that the reason Gaza's civilians are suffering in the first place is that Hamas uses the entire strip as a giant human shield for its killers. And why send the letter now? Well, the Biden White House has an ugly history of trying to restrain Israel whenever it seems to be winning, largely because Biden foreign policy is fundamentally and insanely pro-Iran. And that's a history going back to Obama as well. And the past month has seen a series of major victories against Hezbollah for the Jewish state, including the death of genocidal bully Hassan Nasrallah. But the main reason is the customary one with President Biden. He has his eye on short-term political gains, which is always the goal. It's not about long-term sustainability. It's not a long-term road to peace. It's about instant political gains. But not for himself this time, interestingly enough. That's a little bit different than normal. This time for Kamala Harris. Note that the 30 days are up after the election, if you do the time frame. The 30 days are up after the election. The vice president is facing major headwinds with Arab American voters and anti-Semitic ultra-leftists because she's not seen as being sufficiently anti-Israel. And that's why Walls made that comment the other day. This letter is a clear way of helping her burnish her credentials with the Jew haters in her national base and anti-Israel voters in Michigan. Two groups with real overlap. Yes, and again, this is not a conservative. This is not just conservatives saying this. When you had Van Jones specifically saying that the Democrat Party is now marbled with anti-Semitism, and it would be just as strategically disastrous for Israel to listen this time as it would have been to heed any other disingenuous Biden urging to give up the fight. Luckily, and I think Israel very blessed to have Benjamin Netanyahu as their leader, because he's not, and he has said from the beginning, we're not going to listen to outside forces. We are going to win this. We are in this to win it, because their livelihood, their time on this earth is in danger. It's at stake, with the ultimate goal of groups like Hezbollah and Hamas wiping them off the face of the earth. Their lives are at stake. Michael Goodwin takes it a step further, saying Biden's betrayal of Israel is clear weakness masquerading as policy. And again, sadly, this is an election year strategy. It's all about, well, again, Israel should raise the white flag until the American election is over, is basically what this letter is saying. If it doesn't, the U.S. threatens to join France and others in imposing an arms embargo on the beleaguered Jewish state. The urge to protect Israel's enemies is doubly bizarre when they also happen to be America's enemies, yet that is the impact of the position America is now taking and the demands it is now making. Notice that Biden and Harris are not making a single demand of any other party, and no one else faces ultimatums. Israel alone is being held responsible for the care and feeding of Gaza's civilians, even though Hamas uses them as human shields. But again, unfortunately, it all boils down to the anti-Semitic vote in some important swing states. The micromanaging jumps off the page with a letter insisting that Israel allow at least 350 aid trucks a day to enter Gaza through 4 crossings and open a 5th. It also says Israel must implement humanitarian pauses throughout Gaza. Harris echoed the letter from the campaign trail, saying civilians must be protected and must have access to food, water, and medicine. International humanitarian law must be respected. She said this while planning to spend several days in Michigan, a battleground state which is home to an estimated 200,000 registered Muslim American voters. Most reflectively vote Democrat, but anger over the war has led many to say they will stay home or vote for Jill Stein, who is Jewish and yet a harsh critic of Israel. Politics is a dirty game, as Michael Goodman says, but it doesn't have to be this dirty. Not if you have a spine and any sense of America's security and how to build trust among threatened allies. So we're moving on from that, but I just wanted to highlight, which was so troubling, and the timing of it just so blatantly politically obvious. But we are running extremely late, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Our roof cam is brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. The street sweeper is going by, so I thought I would keep the camera up a little bit longer, but I think it's there it is. And we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I don't know why I thought you'd want to see a street sweeper. Gallup has a new poll, and this I think will come as no surprise, especially with upcoming stories we'll have later on in the program. That Americans' trust in media remains at an all-time low. Again, not really a surprise when you see, well, for instance, watch the Sunday programs and see the debates, for instance, where you see the fact-checking only ever going one way. You see the interruptions, the anger at a J.D. Vance, a Tom Cotton, a Speaker Johnson, the fact checks, which very often are proven not to be factually accurate. And if you look at the debate with vice presidential candidates, J.D. Vance and Tim Walz, that was exactly the case. And if you recall the Harris-Trump debate, ABC admitting that they had practiced ahead of time to fact-check only Trump. They didn't look at that as any type of issue. They were proud of it, saying, yeah, we sat there and practiced and prepped to be ready for whatever thing Trump may say. So the bias is evident. The bias is clear. We see it on a daily basis. I sadly end up talking about it on this program probably way too much, but it's so blatant, and it's right in front of your face. I have stories again today in that vein, and that's why it's accepted. Well, that's why it's so shocking in a way that Harris is going to be on Fox News tonight, because people are saying, well, she's used to the friendly media, which is every other outlet. But anyway, I'll continue. 31% of Americans expressing a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the media. Those are two different. It's interesting that they pair those two together. Great deal or fair amount. I would say those are still pretty far apart. But 31% expressing a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the media to report the news fully, accurately, and fairly. Similar to last year's 32%, so dropping just 1 point. Americans' trust in the media, such as newspapers, television, and radio, first fell to 32% back in 2016 and did so again last year. For the third consecutive year, more U.S. adults have no trust at all in the media, that's 36%, than trust in a great deal or fair amount. Another 33% of Americans expressed, quote, not very much confidence. And again, and I know we're not talking about Frankly Speaking. I know you have full confidence in this program, and I appreciate that. But again, it's almost an article that you or I could have written yesterday, knowing that the American people do not trust the media. And that's the media's own fault. We've talked about it in the past, that they are more willing to push bias than profit, or definitely more than accuracy. For instance, I mean, how many articles came out showing that, oh, no, Kamala Harris didn't plagiarize in her book, and then having to walk that back. It just, the knee-jerk reaction is to protect anybody that is running against Trump. That's why during the debates they were very much ready to say, well, because if you recall in that interview with the moderator from ABC saying, again, that they practiced the fact checking, but that they had saw how Biden handled the debate, and they didn't want missed opportunities to attack Trump or missed opportunities to promote what they believed was a good part of his record. And so that's why they were ready with the fact check. But one other thing we learned from this Gallup poll, before we take a break, and then tie it in with, when we come back, some of this media bias and some of your comments. The news media is the least trusted group. The news media is the least trusted group among 10 U.S. civic and political institutions involved in the Democrat process. That's saying something. When you're lower than Congress, for instance, that should be a wake-up call. It will not be a wake-up call, especially just a few weeks out from the election. The bias will continue. The bias will be amplified these next few weeks. The legislative branch of the federal government, consisting of the U.S. Senate and the House of Representatives, as you know, is rated about as poorly as the media, with 34% trusting it. So the media actually ranks below the Senate and the House when it comes to trust. In contrast, majorities of U.S. adults express at least a fair amount of trust in their local government to handle local problems, 67%. Their state government is to addressing state problems, about 55%. And this is what's important. The American people as a whole, when it comes to making judgments under our democratic system about the issues facing the country, 54%. Now, Democrats trust most entities, government entities, more than Republicans do, except for, can you guess it? The judicial branch, yes. So the bottom line, says Gallup, the United States continues to suffer from a crisis in confidence in many institutions, including the federal government, its three branches, and those who either hold or are running for public office. In addition, trust in the fourth estate, the mass media, is at a new low. Local and state governments and the American people as a whole are the only entities garnering trust from more than half of U.S. adults. So American media, mass media, mainstream media, legacy media, whatever you want to call it, trust in it at a new low, ranking even worse than the House and the Senate. And it should come as no surprise, as, for instance, the New Yorker casting Donald Trump as a villain, as a threat to U.S. democracy, likening him to the 20th century fascists. The list can go on and on and on. We have those stories for you daily, so I don't need to highlight specific ones necessarily today, because it'll automatically come up in what we recount. So we've got to take a break, though. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Rated the best hearing aids of 2023 by Forbes, the Audien Atom 2 series offers superior sound quality and functionality for a fraction of the price. For just $189 a pair, the Atom 2 features 4 different hearing modes for all types of hearing loss. It packs crystal clear sound, a nearly invisible design, and is even rechargeable.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids. They're so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing them. And the sound is amazing.
The Atom Pro 2 is our smallest hearing aid yet, featuring advanced background noise cancellation, and is the world's first hearing aid with built-in UV cleaning that kills 99% of bacteria.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed without seeing a doctor or having a hearing test.
Join over 500,000 happy customers today and get the hearing you deserve.
Call 1-800-434-9816 or go to AudienHearing.com to get your pair of Audien hearing aids starting at just $189.
The bathroom of your dreams is only a phone call away with BCI Bath and Shower. We can make your ordinary bath and shower extraordinary. This is not a cookie cutter design. This is a complete custom build that will fit your every need. It's never been easier or more affordable than right now to get the bathroom of your dreams. We have the best monthly programs in the industry with payments as low as $99 per month or no payments, no interest for 18 months with approved credit. The hardest part of your new bathroom is gutting and building the tub and shower. If your bathing area is old, there could be damage behind the walls and possible mold and mildew, which can be a serious safety issue. At BCI, we don't cover a problem, we fix it. Call now to get a never clean glass treated door with the no-track system at half off for the first 50 callers. Factory trained, certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. Call 800-704-1798. That's 800-704-1798.
And we are back with our roof cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security today for all your business and home security needs. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, and you're watching Frankly Speaking. We're having a lot of fun on today's program. The New Yorker did cast Donald Trump as a villain, threatening U.S. democracy, likening him to 20th century fascists. How alarmed should we be if Trump wins again? That's the unbiased and fair title of an article in the New Yorker. I'm not going to go through it. You get the gist of what they would be saying with a title like that. Just an example to piggyback on that Gallup poll finding that Americans no longer trust the media. New York Times is accused of lying about Kamala Harris's plagiarism allegations to minimize the scandal. That's something that we talked about yesterday on the program, that you could tell between the CNN article and the New York Times article, because remember, there's media. So plagiarism is a serious allegation, don't get me wrong. But because it's the media, they believe that this could be the October surprise. So they had to get ahead of it. Going back to the bias being more important than anything else, they had to get ahead of it. And so they put out articles downplaying the plagiarism. That's why I knew they believed anyway it was going to be a major issue when CNN had it on the front page, because you knew it was almost going to be nothing to see here. Don't worry, we did the research. Everything's fine. The New York Times was accused of lying about plagiarism allegations against Vice President Kamala Harris to undermine an exclusive report by a conservative activist who then, remember, if you recall in that one piece that we had, trying to suggest that he's a racist. I mean, it's their old bag of tricks. Christopher Rufo, who helped expose alleged plagiarism by Harvard President Claudine Gay that eventually led to her ouster, posted on Monday that several passages in Harris's 2009 book, Smart on Crime, closely resembled or perfectly matched wording from other sources. The Times followed with a story that noted Rufo found only, quote, 5 sections involving about 500 words that raised questions. It quoted plagiarism expert Jonathan Bally, who said Rufo took relatively minor citation mistakes and tried to make a big deal out of it. The amount of plagiarism amounts to an error and not an intent to defraud, Bally said. But after the Gray Lady published the story, Bally wrote on his X account that his quotes were based on, quote, information provided to me by the reporters, and that he had not done a full analysis of the book. So he trusted, that was his first mistake, he trusted the New York Times for trying to write a fair article saying, oh, no, these are the only things you have to look at. Never mind the other allegations. Rufo has said he provided the Times the full analysis by Austrian researcher Dr. Stefan Weber, who found 18 allegations of varying severity, a much more extensive sample than was cited by the Times. So the Times only handpicked so they could have that that small, there's only 500 words out of 65. You remember, I brought the article to you yesterday. The New York Times is lying about my plagiarism story, and I have the receipts to prove it, Rufo said. He accused the Times of having deliberately withheld the full analysis conducted by Weber to minimize the extent of the scandal. So then they could quote, just like they quote anonymous sources so often, they could quote a plagiarism expert who wasn't given all the details and say, see, there is nothing to see here. When he asked the Times politely for a correction, the editor, Mary Shue, had nothing but excuses. And so we're going to fight this one out, Rufo said. They should issue a correction, but even if they do not, I will correct the record in public. Now, I'm not going to go through all the plagiarism issues. It is a major story. If you look at just the history of Walls and Harris, it raises some real concerns. And remember, just to show you more about how nasty the media can be, the New York Times insinuating that Rufo was racist for doing this research and just in general. If you recall, quote, Mr. Rufo is part of a loose confederation of conservative writers and activists who, during the past year, have tried to expose plagiarism among academics, many of whom have been black scholars who work in the field of diversity and inclusion. Some academics have characterized the campaign as racist. So they don't need to then quote those, quote, some academics, as long as they can. It's brilliant media use. This is what they do all the time. Some are saying, when they go to ask somebody a question, some are saying, so some academics, then they are, even though they are showing their bias, they're not specifically coming out and saying they believe it's racist. It's some academics, some no-name academics believe the campaign is racist. It's so textbook media bias, and going to the point, once again, of why Gallup has found that the American people do not trust the media. All right, we've got to take a break. Oh, and yeah, the New York Times expert claiming who cleared Harris said never got the full analysis. That right there tells you all you need to know. But we got to take a break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In honor of Breast Cancer Awareness Month, our blue logo is going pink. For those who've won their fight against cancer, we salute you. For those still fighting, we support you. And for those who would like to help, go to WilliamAttire.com. At William Attire, we've helped thousands in our community after a crash with serious injuries. You know us, you know our focus, and you know we can help. Call the firm with the focus, the firm with the fours. 444-4444.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income.
The Boss Security Roof Cam. Thank you to Boss Security. Call them today for all your business and home security needs. Okay. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This hour's going quickly, isn't it? My goodness. Coming up in the next hour, we will be talking with Erin Skinner, she is running for New York State Supreme Court in the 7th Judicial District. We'll tell you exactly what that 7th Judicial District is made up of during that interview. She is running on the Democrat, Working Families, and there's a judicial integrity lines. We will have some of her opponents. There's 4 people running for 2 positions. We'll have some of her opponents on the program as well. I don't have total 4 booked as of right now, and that's why just a quick PSA. If you are running for elected office, or you know someone that is, or you can get them in contact with me, just use that number on the bottom of your screen, and we will get that booked, because the next, obviously, as you can imagine, the next few weeks very busy. We could be looking at 2, I'm hoping not, but maybe even 3 interviews a day at points as it nears. I've tried to do a good job of giving us a little wiggle room so we have time to talk about the national scene. So hopefully that stays. But I've been through this too many times to know that to assume that we're going to have a lot of time the next few weeks. It's going to be fun shows, let me tell you. It's going to be great. But back to this plagiarism issue, and I want to get away from it. Because I want to talk about yesterday's Harris interview with Charlemagne the God. That's his name. He's a radio host. Harris having that sit down with him. We know that she's trying to do a sit down interview with Joe Rogan. Is one of these scenarios, and she's on Fox tonight. I think it's one of these examples of something we predicted here on the program, that the quietness, the basement strategy wasn't going to work for her. There's too many questions. There's too many past word salads and past policy positions that people don't like that she's now changing. So it wasn't going to work. But did they wait too late to start signing up for all of these media interviews? Why now, after all this time? We're going to talk about it coming up. But I just wanted to only be fair on this program. I wanted to tell you what the Harris campaign said about the plagiarized book excerpts. There we go. I knew, 3rd time's a charm. Campaign spokesman James Singer said right-wing operatives are getting desperate as they see the bipartisan coalition of support Vice President Harris is building to win this election, as Trump retreats to a conservative echo chamber, refusing to face questions about his lies. Just wanted to pass that along to you. Only fair. All right, so there are, according to Fox News, there's 4 takeaways from Harris's interview with Charlemagne the God. I think it's interesting that she has done so little when it comes to the media. We know she still has not done a press conference, very few interviews. So when she does an interview as the Democrat nominee for president of the United States, it becomes a news story in and of itself, where there is the takeaways, there's the analysis of it, more than there would be for, a normal, let's say, if she was doing every Sunday morning show, or she was doing press conferences, etc. Vice President Harris covered topics from reparations to the border in her high-profile interview with Charlemagne the God, whose program is popular with black listeners. The audio town hall in Detroit aired on the show called Breakfast Club, and it was for a full hour with questions from listeners. Recent polls have shown Harris losing support from black men, and her appearance was part of an attempt at reversing that trend. Off the bat, Charlemagne remarked on people criticizing Harris for sounding very scripted in interviews and rallies, which Harris called discipline. Some people say you have an ability to fearlessly say who you are and what you believe. What do you say to people who say you stay on talking points? All right, let me reword that. I'm sorry, I completely misread that. Some people say you have an inability to fearlessly say who you are and what you believe. What do you say to people who say that you stay on talking points? And he raises a good point. There's that, and I think a lot of times that's where the word salad comes from. She's trying to think of a way out on whether it's past policy positions about her. Harris said, I would say you're welcome. I mean, listen, here's the thing. I love having conversations, which is why I'm so happy to be with you this afternoon. And the reality is that there are certain things that must be repeated to ensure I have everyone know what I stand for and the issues that I think are at stake in this election. And so it requires repetition. Yeah, just because the American people just can't get it. Do you read that as insulting? Some things just have to be repeated because, the American people just aren't going to understand the brilliance of my points. It's going to be over their head, so it's going to take a lot of time for them to get it. I don't know. It just comes off weird to me. I don't know. You know, some people say that until someone has heard the same thing at least 3 times, it just doesn't stay with you, Harris said. So repetition is important. And for that reason, yes, at my rallies, I say the things when I go to Detroit as I do in Philly, as I do wherever I am, to make sure that people hear and receive what I think are some of the most critical issues that are at stake in this election. Later on, Charlemagne brought up Harris's record, and this is something that's been glanced over. Do I have to take a break? I do. Marijuana charges. When she was prosecutor, she went after low-level drug offenses, and it was a major issue back in 2019 when she ran in the primaries. And then she started running as a prosecutor this time around. It was kind of interesting. So I was in the media conveniently ignoring the past criticisms. But Charlemagne brought this up. He said, one of the biggest pieces of misinformation, one of the biggest allegations against you is that you targeted and locked up thousands of black men in San Francisco. Some say you did it to boost your career. Some say you did it of pure hate for black men. Please tell us the facts. Well, I think that's Charlemagne helping her out there, because it's not misinformation. She at the time had, if you look at the numbers, looking at the prosecution, I'm not saying she did it because they were black men, or the point back in 2019 was that she had all these prosecutions for people with marijuana, but then laughed at a reporter's question asking if she had ever smoked marijuana. That was the big takeaway. But she said it's just simply not true, and public defenders who are around those days will tell you I was the most progressive prosecutor in California on marijuana cases and would not send people to jail for simple possession of weed, and as vice president have been a champion for bringing marijuana down on the schedule. Though Harris has since supported decriminalizing marijuana use, as district attorney, she oversaw nearly, are you ready for this? 2,000 convictions on marijuana-related charges. So is that misinformation? I think that was a little disingenuous. We're going to continue this discussion. We've got 2 other takeaways, reparations and the border, when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Now there's a product that sears food, stirs it, even shreds it for you. Introducing the PowerXL StirMax Multi-Cooker with a built-in auto stirrer that gives you the freedom of adding your ingredients and walking away and coming back to meals that cook up to 60% faster. No more stirring food. StirMax technology automatically rotates the paddle clockwise, then counterclockwise, so it stirs it for you. Powerful enough to even shred food. Then the 7.5 quart pot goes right to the table to serve. With a premium ceramic coating, nothing sticks. And it's dishwasher safe. Now you can try the PowerXL StirMax Multi-Cooker with lid and recipe guide in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. You also get the steamer and rice basket for healthy meals, StirMax serving spoon that snaps in place for easy serving, and $100 in free grocery coupons. We'll even ship your order all absolutely free. This is an exclusive TV-only offer, so order now.
The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Call them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. We're talking about Kamala Harris's interview with Charlemagne the God, which is a radio program. We had the 4 takeaways from Fox News. The first was her scripted talking points, the second marijuana charges. Now she was asked about reparations from a caller. She said, I'm running to be president for all Americans. That being said, I do have clear eyes about the disparities that exist and the context in which they exist, meaning history, to your point. So my agenda, well, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. And I've been very clear about that position in terms of my immediate plan. To study it? Well, I know statewide, I know New York State is studying it. I think California did, and that didn't go well. So that was her answer. Kind of a typical political answer. And finally, on the border, which we'll talk about it in the next hour, Charlemagne said, pressed her on the record on the border, numerous times, saying, doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border? A lot of the blame, because, I mean, the first 3 years, you did get a lot of things wrong with the border. Harris answered, no, Charlemagne. Within hours of being inaugurated, the first bill we passed before we did the Inflation Reduction Act, before we did the Bipartisan Infrastructure Act, before we did Safer Communities Act to deal with gun violence, the first thing we dropped was a bill to fix the broken immigration system, which, by the way, Trump did not fix when he was president. Okay, we're going to talk about that more in depth in the next hour. Also in the next hour, we're going to be talking with Erin Skinner. She is running for New York State Supreme Court, the 7th Judicial District. We'll find out what that district compromises consists of. I don't know where that came from. I guess I got compromised on the head. She'll be on the program in the next hour. On tomorrow's program, we'll have Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard. Always look forward to having Sheriff Allard on the program. We're also going to hear about the A21 Walk for Freedom this I believe it's this Saturday. This Saturday at Corning Centerway Square. It's to raise awareness about human trafficking. We're going to learn about that. And then on Friday's program, we're going to be talking with Cornell Mayor John Buckley, a friend to Frankly Speaking. John Buckley, I've been on quite a few times. We'll be talking with him on Friday. I don't even have my calendar out for next week, but next week is going to be extremely busy as well. So I hope that you tune in every weekday morning starting at 6. So hour number 1 in the books, hour number 2 on the way with Erin Skinner a little bit later on. Again, it's not too late, but it's getting extremely close to being too late. If you want to be on the program, if you are running for elected office, please contact me as soon as possible. You see that number on the bottom of the screen. We will get you in the calendar as best as we can, but it depends on if you want to come in at 6 a.m. or if you want to come in at 7:30. So keep that in mind. If you know anybody, you could pass that information along, that number on the bottom of the screen. Appreciate it. Okay, let's take that break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Trust your smile to Dr. Joshua Henches at Watkins Glen Family Dentistry. Buffalo graduate and member of the American and New York Dental Associations, Dr. Henches offers treatment in all areas of general dentistry, including same-day crowns, implants, root canals, oral surgery, and Sure Smile orthodontics. Trust Dr. Henches and his staff for the best dental care in the region. Visit our office at 703 South Decatur Street in Watkins Glen, or visit us online at watkinsglenfamilydentistry.com.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer.
How do I know if I have a case?
Call 844-292-6222 and consult with one of our attorneys to find out if the products you used are part of the lawsuit. Your eligibility will also depend on how often you use these hair products and your specific cancer diagnosis. If you regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. Call 844-292-6222.
How much will it cost to talk to an attorney?
There is no fee unless we win your case. Call 844-292-6222 for your free case review.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, hour number 2. Boy, the time flies. Look at all these great comments. Keep them coming in. Quiet out there on the waves, but that's okay. We were talking about Charlemagne the God, but before that, we have a comment from Ken. Ken is cynical this morning, and he admits it. Frank, I apologize in advance for being so cynical. I was positive that the Dems wouldn't run a candidate that was worse than Biden, and they would change Harris out at the convention or shortly thereafter. Now I fear that the only rational explanation for why she is still in the race is that the Dems are so confident that their election stealing machine is working so well that they can't lose. Thank you, Ken. We've got other comments coming in, but I saw them right at the last second. So we'll read those in the next break. We are going to talk with Erin Skinner, who's running for Supreme Court here in just a little bit. I think the biggest takeaway for this interview with Harris and Charlemagne was really him pressing her on two things. Just sticking to talking points as being so scripted. And the second, the border. A listener said that brought up Trump talking about mass mass deporting illegal immigrants, saying, quote, put anyone that doesn't look white in camps. Harris responded, yeah, so you've hit on a really important point, and expressed it, I think, so well, which is he's achieving the intended effect to make you scared. He prefers to run on a problem instead of fix a problem, and we've got to call it out and see it for what it is. That's when Charlemagne interjected, saying, but doesn't the Biden administration have to take some blame for the border, though? A lot of the blame, because, I mean, the first 3 years, y'all didn't get a lot of things wrong. You did get a lot of things wrong with the border. Harris pivoted into a lengthy recitation of campaign talking points, saying that the first thing we dropped was a bill to fix a broken immigration system, referring to legislation that would have provided a pathway to citizenship for nearly all illegal immigrants in the U.S., which Republicans said would prompt more to come without legal permission. So she did, even though right off the jump, being criticized for only using talking points and not really showing who she really is, stuck to those talking points, stuck to the script. There was another point when asked about reparations, where she said, first of all, on the point of reparations, it has to be studied. There's no question about that. Then she pivoted to generally applicable policies. The host at one point said, you're going to keep going? She said, you caught that? Okay, filibuster, ma'am. So saying that she was filibustering, just, kind of, it wasn't the word salad necessarily, but rambling on with the answer. Everything I just talked about will benefit everybody, she said, to kind of make up for the quote-unquote filibuster. The interview did feature, you've got to give credit, a number of tense questions. It'll be interesting to see what tonight's Fox News interview looks like, because Harris will be interviewed on Fox News tonight. And they did tear in a little bit to the marijuana legalization issue, even though, like I had said, the question was loaded in a way to protect her. Harris did not directly address the many pot convictions on her watch, while maintaining, I was the most progressive prosecutor in California on marijuana cases and would not send people to jail for simple possession of weed. In another exchange, a listener asked, why are we sending money to other countries when we definitely need it in our own country for homeless, housing, resources, for whatever? That is my determining factor if I vote for Kamala or not. The host noted to Harris that that's one of the reasons Trump's America First rhetoric resonates. That's what the host just telling Harris. This is why it resonates. Well, Harris maintained, because it's just an open bank account, that we can do it all. We can send money to every place. Charlemagne then pressed Harris by quoting rapper Tupac as saying, we got money for war but can't feed the poor. Harris did get nailed down on some points, asked why people can't we just say the election is about fascism as manifested by Trump. She said, yes, we can say that. At another point, she addressed what McKinley said was a rumor that Janet Jackson is mad at you because you prosecuted her brother, Michael Jackson. That's just not true, she said, on either count. I have not talked with her, but certainly it's not true about her brother. The interview cut off mid-sentence as Harris spoke past the allotted time, saying that Trump, who recently trashed Detroit while in the Motor City, has a tendency to mention cities that either have historically black majority populations or, and then dead air. Okay, that was just a quick kind of recap. She did cast a little bit of doubt on whether the election will be free and fair, which is interesting, right? Because we hear that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy for saying these types of things. Charlemagne said, why are people acting like this is going to be a free and fair election and we won't try to steal it? And why he won't try to steal it, meaning Trump. Trump's going to try to steal it. I don't know how. Harris replied the election would only be free and fair if Americans stand up for that. It will be a free and fair election if we, the American people, stand up for that. I see it as this. I think that the democracy has it like 2 points of nature. Yeah, it's going to be a word salad, so I struggle the first time reading it. I see it as this. I think that the democracy has its like 2 points of nature. One, there's a fact about a democracy that when it is intact, it's the strength that it possesses in terms of the protection of people's individual rights and liberties. When a democracy is intact, we protect your rights and your liberties. Harris's answer comes as top congressional Democrats told Axios on Thursday they would not commit to certifying the 2024 election if former President Trump wins. Keep that all in mind. Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about where their campaigns are headed here in just a little bit. As I mentioned, Harris going to speak at Fox News tonight, which will be interesting. Trump had what you could maybe call a testy exchange at the Economic Club of Chicago. Now, it's interesting, though. Here where we are, October 16th, so yesterday, obviously, October 15th, and Harris really probably going to her first really hostile, and you can't even say it's completely hostile, but interview. It's the first time where she actually had to take the tough questions. Now, at Univision, at that town hall, there was a tough question from an audience member asking about, the ouster of Biden and why Harris didn't go through the proper channels with the primary, et cetera. But that's one and done. 60 Minutes, there was a couple of follow-up questions, but nothing you would say is necessarily hostile. And I wouldn't say this is hostile. This isn't Trump as some of the interviews he's had and some of the forums that he's been to, or with Vance on the Sunday morning shows, or just taking press at the rallies. By the way, is anybody going to the rally today in Williamsport? J.D. Vance is going to be in Williamsport. Just curious if anybody's going to make it out. This was her first kind of hostile. Some are saying that tonight, Fox News, their interview could be hostile. I don't think it will be. I think Fox does a very interesting thing. And if you look back to the primaries, when there were so many Republicans running, when Trump was kind of bursting on the scenes, that was almost to the other direction, just to show that they are balanced and fair. So I'm not sure what the questions will look like with Bret Baier tonight. No one does, but what are your predictions? By the way, if you aren't aware, Georgia, over 300,000 voters in the key battleground of Georgia showed up for the first day of early voting, and it broke, obviously, a record. For those that claim Georgia election laws were Jim Crow 2.0 and those that say democracy is dying, the voters of Georgia would like to have a word, said Gabriel Sterling, the chief operating officer for Georgia's Secretary of State. Very impressive numbers. Now, Trump, according to CNN, and this is a kind of an overview by Stephen Collinson, we'd like to show you all sides here. He said Trump shows his risks and his appeal. He offered a reminder of his wild years as president, and this is in terms of when he was in Chicago at the Economic Club. He was impervious to facts, routinely ignored economic logic, and showed himself to be steeped in personal grievances and conspiracy theories. Unbelievable. The interview was a classic example of how Trump makes a mockery of truth and has shattered traditional election conventions. He piled up a torrent of falsehoods and digressions that made him impossible to pin down, effectively escaping any kind of accountability. Harris is now making, they call the interview with Charlemagne, a belated bid to win black men. The vice president faces similar challenges among black men. While this is a cohort that has generally voted for Democrats, they have been seen signs of erosion in recent cycles, a trend Trump has been working to take advantage of. So anyway, that's just kind of a quick overview of yesterday before we take a short break. Again, Harris, what do you think of that interview with Charlemagne, or what do you think of the interview scheduled for tonight with Fox and and this is a question because I don't have the answer. I do, in full disclosure, I don't watch or listen, however you do it, Joe Rogan all that often. Every once in a while, there's some big clip that you can't avoid. How do you think that interview would go? Do you think you should do it? I know that Trump has been saying he's going to go on Rogan. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts about that interview? Is it politically important as they're stating? That's a question, just showing my ignorance, and I'm not sure. Just fair questions. Just posing some questions this morning, getting some chatter going out there. All right, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Y'all got a lot of stuff here in your water.
You're never gonna believe it, but this can filter up to 60 different contaminants from your water.
It's all about cleaner drinking water.
Dude, that's good water.
And that's good water.
Now that's good water.
That's good water, eh?
No matter where you live, there's a Culligan water expert nearby. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
I'm Nancy O'Dell. This is Crime Expose.
It's chilling, it's haunting.
We knew exactly who it was.
Blood stains on her shorts.
See you in September.
The Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson's studio. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Coming up in just a few moments, we'll be talking with Erin Skinner. She is running for New York State Supreme Court, and that's the 7th Judicial District. Okay, so Harris is going to sit down for that interview with Bret Baier at Fox News. It is going to air on Special Report at 6 p.m. tonight. Harris will speak with Fox News following an afternoon campaign event in Bucks County, a crucial swing county in Philadelphia's northern suburb. The sit-down is going to be approximately 25 to 30 minutes at around 5 p.m., about an hour before the show hits live, and then they'll broadcast it. They've made it very clear, Bret Baier saying yesterday, we are going to run it uninterrupted, unedited, all the way. The vice president's first formal interview on Fox News will give her a chance to speak directly to viewers across the ideological spectrum who normally don't watch the rival cable news networks, CNN and MSNBC. As Baier said, we have a lot of eyeballs. We have Democrats, independents, and Republicans. We have the biggest cable news audience. And this is probably going to get a lot more eyeballs. I think tough but fair is what I pitched it as. And I think that's what they're going to see. It's interesting because, and I'm going to talk about Joe Rogan here in a moment, but there is a piece out that is coming from Democrats that are not very happy with how Kamala is running the campaign at this point. And there are others, not just political quote-unquote consultants, so take it with a grain of salt. But as pollster Patrick Rafuni questioned on Twitter, I think this is a good point. Kamala needs all day to prep for Charlemagne. It looks like she took the whole day to prep for that interview, but it is her first somewhat, and then not completely hostile, but somewhat hostile interviews. And when I say hostile, it's not like J.D. Vance going on Meet the Press. Not to that level. It's you're going to get tough questions, kind of like what to expect from Bret Baier tonight, according to Bret Baier, which is tough but fair. Now, I don't know if Fox will go maybe on the safe side and not even be that tough. I don't know. It's not a knock on Fox. It's just they haven't had a Democrat presidential candidate on, I think they said, since 2016. Political analyst Mark Halperin said, why isn't she in 3 battleground states a day? Why isn't she in 4 media markets in Pennsylvania today rather than 1? If you assume she's behind, which again I think she is right now, not by a lot, why isn't she working hard? Sean Spicer, now of course a Republican political analyst, said you create the impression that she's busting her you know what, and they're not even trying on the front to create the perception that she's hustling. And she goes out there the other day and says, we're the underdog, we're behind. Okay, then show me you're the underdog. Act like the underdog, but you don't go, we're the underdog. Dan Turrentine, a former congressional Democrat staffer, said Harris's slim schedule is contrasted by the perception of Trump as being the candidate who is campaigning the hardest, while Harris is still perceived as hiding from the media. No one is going to sit there and say Harris is really open with the media and engaged in an open book, and Trump is the one hiding. But that's what she is trying to suggest in some of her lines, that Trump is hiding. We know that Trump has been going everywhere. That is his style. We know that. Numerous rallies a day. I remember back in 2016, what did he have in the last day? It was like 4, something crazy. So Harris doing a rally here and there and spending a day prepping for the Charlemagne interview. And you can't say she's open necessarily to the media when the 2 interviews. Well, we'll even count Fox, Charlemagne, and 60 Minutes. We know she hasn't done a press conference, so not what you would call open to the media. Her final month has been centered around national interviews with celebrity hosts like Stephen Colbert, The View, etc. Now, the Fox, I will say that's going to be an interesting position, the Fox News interview, and it will kind of take away that label that many have put on her, which is that she is avoiding tough questions. But the question is asked, and oh man, we got to go because we've got that interview coming up. But the question is asked by the New York Post editorial board: should Kamala Harris go on Joe Rogan's show? Kamala Harris's campaign is scrambling. Either her staff don't know what they're doing, or they've realized it's Hail Mary time. She's agreed to an interview with Fox News. The first time she's sat down with Fox News, with a reporter from Fox News, from a right-leaning outlet, as the Democratic nominee. And after even CBS's best efforts couldn't save her from looking awful in a friendly but professional sit-down with Bill Whitaker. And she may still wind up looking worse if CBS does, as it should, release a full transcript. But see, they're dragging their feet for a reason. They're not going to release that transcript. They only have to wait out for a couple more weeks. Even riskier, she's reportedly in talks to guest on Joe Rogan's mega popular podcast, whose audience skews heavily male and conservative, and whose sit-downs typically run for hours. Neither move would be notable for almost any other candidate. Donald Trump has been sitting down with opposing, even hostile interviewers since he launched his campaign. But Harris handlers have largely restricted her to rallies with teleprompters and crowds of supporters, or sit-downs with friendly alt-media types who tee up easy questions with few follow-ups. And that's very much why they like the local interviews, knowing that there's not going to be pushback, there's not going to be the follow-up. And no wonder, every time she goes off script or is pressed just a little bit, she offers up complete gibberish, like her Monday ramble about constellations in response to Black Star Network host Roland Martin's question on crime. Not to mention her admission on The View that she wouldn't have done anything different from Joe Biden these last 4 years. We have to think she and her advisors have decided she's on course to lose and decide they have to take some big risks if they're going to turn the race around. Maybe they're looking at grim news from internal polling, from public polls showing an essentially tied race, but with trends favoring Trump as we enter the final weeks. And early voting, which tends to favor Democrats, is down 45% compared to the same point in 2020, and Trump has a narrow lead among early voters in swing states, according to a recent Harvard poll. She's losing support among groups that Democrats have long had locked down, including black men and Hispanics. Or maybe it's more accurate to say that Trump is winning over significant numbers of those voters who are fed up with Harris-Biden's weak economy, brutal inflation, open borders, and out-of-control crime. After all, Harris's policies on all fronts are anything but turn the page, no matter how she says she cares deeply on every front, just as Biden did. If we're reading things right, Harris is smart to risk doing interviews on dangerous ground. She may falter, but if she can rise to the occasion, she can score with voters she actually needs if she wants to win. And all the joy with Stephen Colbert and his ilk can't achieve that, because that's basically her friendly audience. Those are people that already supported her. But we got to take a break because we have a guest coming up, Erin Skinner. She is running for New York State Supreme Court, the 7th Judicial District. She will be on the Democrat line, the Working Families line, and the line Judicial Integrity. So we'll find out all about that coming up after this next break. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back.
Enjoy a taste of the Finger Lakes at Hector Hideaway.
With a lunch and dinner menu, we serve a variety of delicious dishes made with locally sourced ingredients. Dine inside or out on the deck for gorgeous lake views and pair your meal with a local wine, beer, or beverage. We're open until 9 p.m. Thursday through Monday, but the bar is open until midnight Fridays and Saturdays. Stay tuned for live music. Visit us today at Hector Hideaway.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount, so it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
During high school, I hung with the wrong crowd and I never graduated.
I helped Santiago in many different ways, like all fathers do, because he always wanted to go to college.
I felt a little embarrassed to come back to school, but eventually, once I came here, I knew that it's for a bigger goal.
He was very dedicated, hardworking. He connected with his teachers, he connected with other students. That was one of the key reasons why he was able to keep forging ahead.
It was amazing to see him graduate. This was one thing that meant so much to him, and of course, it meant so much to us too.
With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed. That support is everything.
Find free adult education classes near you at Finish Your Diploma.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and on the program this morning, we're being joined by Aaron Skinner. Thanks so much for being on the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Well, congratulations on running for Supreme Court in the 7th Judicial District. How's the campaign going so far?
It's going really well. I have no concept of a good campaign versus a bad one. This is my first foray into politics.
Sure.
But the response has been so enthusiastic and so welcoming.
Oh, yeah.
It's been really lovely. I'm enjoying it a lot. It's exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
But
you'll be ready for November 5th, right? Yes. Sleeping in November 6th. It's a long process, and going right to, and we talk about this, it seems like with every candidate, the petition process, day one, it's a helpful process because you get to learn from what people on the street think. But boy, that's a lot of work too.
And I'd never done any of that before,
right?
Because as a confidential law clerk to a sitting judge, I'm not allowed to engage in politics. I'm bound by the same rules that he is. And so I truly had no idea the process that our parties went through to give us candidates to vote for in November. I am so grateful, and I feel terrible that I didn't realize how much work it took to get someone on the ballot.
Yes, and it's really interesting with you being a judicial candidate, because now if you are successful on November 5th, you have 14 years now where you can't talk about politics whatsoever.
Yep.
But now we have to talk politics.
Exactly.
But that's why
as best we can.
Yes. And I don't ask, obviously, political questions because you can't answer. And I always give this disclaimer on the program before we do the interview because I can't ask specifics. So let's start with something like this. How about your background? Tell us about your background.
Sure. I went to Syracuse University for law school. And as soon as I graduated, I became a criminal defense attorney.
Okay.
Onondaga County does not have a public defender's office. All of their defendants who are indigent get assigned a private attorney who is then paid through the county.
Oh, wow, okay.
So I did that for about 2 years, and then I'm from Rochester. I grew up in Greece, and I had an opportunity to come back and work at the Monroe County Public Defender's Office, which, quick plug, is one of the best public defender's offices in the nation.
Okay.
Other offices try to model their office based on the Monroe County Public Defender's Office. It's truly fantastic. So I was there for about 2.5 years, and I applied to clerk at the Appellate Division 4th Department here in Rochester.
Okay.
They hear all of the appeals from Supreme Court, County Court, Family Court, Surrogates Court, and the Court of Claims
Okay.
from Buffalo to Syracuse.
Wow.
So it's the second biggest geographical appellate division and the second most populous. And after I did their 2-year program, I was lucky enough to go to the Court of Appeals, which is the highest court in New York State. And I clerked there for 2 years. We call it clerking. It's really you're an attorney for the court. You write reports that advise the judges on how you think appeals should be handled. It's, of course, ultimately left up to the judges, but they rely on your research and your recommendation when they're forming their own decisions. And then while I was there, my supervisor, when I was at the 4th Department, called and asked if I'd be interested in coming back to Rochester to work in chambers with one of the judges at the 4th Department. And I said, no, I just moved my family from Rochester to Albany. I'm married. We have, at the time, she was 3 years old. Oh, no, 2. I just moved them across the state. Couldn't move them back again.
Yeah.
A month later, he calls me back and says, I know you said you weren't interested, but the presiding justice of the 4th Department is going to call you in about 10 minutes and offer you that job.
Oh, thanks for the heads up, the 10-minute heads up, right?
Completely unprepared for this phone call.
Oh, wow.
So he did. He called and asked if I would come back. And I love working at the 4th Department. It is one of my favorite jobs I've ever had. And luckily, I have a very understanding husband who works from home. And he was willing to make that move back to Rochester.
Wow.
So we came back and I started working in chambers. I wrote all of the decisions for my judge. I wrote all of the reports that our chambers were in charge of providing to the other panel members. And then when she retired in 2022, I started working for Justice Mark Montour. He's a judge elected out of the 8th Judicial District in Buffalo. He asked me to stay on and work in his chambers. So I do the same thing for him. I write his reports, I write his decisions. He ultimately approves them, but he relies on my work and my research in forming his opinion on how appeals should be handled.
Well, and you're obviously busy then, at least it sounds it to us. Why did you decide to take on this challenge, this run?
I would say for 2 reasons. One, I got so tired of sitting at home feeling helpless about our national political picture. It is so divisive, and everyone is using, fear-based rhetoric. So to be sitting at home on the sidelines thinking there's nothing I can do, finally I thought, well, there is one thing I could do, right?
Yeah.
This is what my background is in.
Right.
This is what I could offer to my community. And if I wasn't willing to put the time and money and effort into running, I really couldn't expect other people to do it either.
Sure.
And then the other reason is because as much as I love the appellate division, it takes years for cases to get to us.
Okay.
And in the meantime, defendants are sitting in prison when maybe they shouldn't be, or families are separated and they shouldn't have been, or plaintiffs don't get medical care that they need because their case got dismissed. And so I really want the opportunity to get it right the first time before they have to go through that appellate process. And I had the benefit of having looked at hundreds of cases from start to finish, this bird's eye view for their appeals, and to be able to bring that to the trial court bench, I think is going to be so helpful.
Sure. And we're talking about the Supreme Court Justice 7th Judicial District. How you mentioned this is your first time campaigning, but it feels good, I'm sure, to get out there and talk with people. What are the voters saying to you when you talk with them?
I think a lot of them have the same worries, that same feeling of kind of helplessness, and this idea, and especially when I was doing the independent petition, I was meeting people on both sides of the aisle.
Right.
And it's so clear when we stop and talk to each other one-on-one, we agree on so much more than we disagree on.
I agree.
So that has been fabulous. Just that I always figured that was the case, but to have that confirmed in these one-on-one conversations, initially when the Democratic ticket had President Biden at the top, after that first debate, you can imagine it was
Yeah.
we were all walking around with our heads down.
Sure.
Ever since they have changed the top of the ticket, there's been this energy
Gotcha.
from voters who are excited. And I mean, the concept of voting for possibly the first female president is it's energizing. And so it's been a real change, especially in the outer counties, which I was surprised about. The Democrats that I've worked with out there, because there's pockets of Dems in all of the 8 counties.
Yeah.
Their events have doubled in size since they
Wow.
changed the top of the ticket. So they're really trying to capitalize on that momentum
For the local. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the 7th Judicial District. You just mentioned that's 8 counties?
8 counties.
Wow.
It is Cayuga, Livingston, Monroe, Ontario, Seneca, Steuben, Wayne, and Yates.
Wow. So you've got a lot of miles on the car.
Oh my gosh, my poor car.
I know. Well, and you were mentioning, and I want to talk about this for a second to kind of clear up some confusion, because you were on the Democrat line, the Working Families line, and there's this line that I had never heard of, and we were talking a little bit off the air about it. Tell me about the Judicial Integrity line.
So that is an independent line. New York State no longer has an independence party.
Right.
They didn't have enough votes in the last gubernatorial election to keep the party alive. But you are able to attempt to petition on to an independent line. And I truly believe judges should not be political.
Right.
It does not matter what party I belong to once I have
For 14 years, right? Yeah.
I have to follow the law.
Yeah,
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
No matter who comes in front of me, no matter what party they belong to, what my personal beliefs are, they don't matter.
Right.
And so I wanted to get that third party independent line for people who agree that judges shouldn't be political.
Right.
We were successful. We needed 3,500 signatures.
Wow.
We got 4,390. Wow. But because I have 2 major party endorsements, I cannot have a standalone independent party line.
That's really strange.
It's very strange.
Yeah.
And if you're running for governor or New York State Senate or New York State Assembly, you can have as many lines as you can get.
Right.
But a judicial candidate, they have placed my independent line in the same row as my Democratic nomination line. So if you look in the box on row A with my name, it will say Democrat and judicial integrity under that.
Oh.
So you can still vote for the judicial integrity line, but it will be in the same box as the Democratic line.
Do you think
which
that
kind of defeats the purpose
Yeah,
of
that
an independent?
100% of the name. Do you think that'll cause confusion? Because I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like that.
I think it can be confusing.
Yeah.
I don't see how it could not be.
Right.
But I'm hoping that I can get out that message that this is what we did. This is why it's under there. You can still vote for me under that independent party line.
Sure.
It's just going to be on row A.
Yeah. And since we're on the issue of kind of explaining the race and specifically with the parties that you're in, what does the race itself look like? How many people are running for the position of Supreme Court?
So there are 2 open seats.
Okay.
There are no incumbents. The 2 judges whose seats are opening have reached mandatory retirement age.
Okay.
They can seek senior status, which allows them to stay on for 2 more years. They have to get certified to be able to do that. But even if they seek senior status, their seats still become open under the Constitution. So technically, there are no incumbents running for these 2 seats.
Okay.
Myself and a gentleman named John Bringawat, he is the Monroe County Attorney.
Mm-hmm.
We have received the Democratic nomination and the Working Families Party nomination.
Okay.
And then there are 2 individuals, Ed White.
Mm-hmm.
He is a current Supreme Court clerk for one of the judges over at the Hall of Justice in Rochester. and Judge Stacy Romeo. She's a current family court judge in Monroe County. They have both received the Conservative and Republican nominations.
So there's 4 people running for 2 positions, and those who get the most votes. So technically, it could be a Democrat and a Republican.
Oh, yeah. 100%.
Oh, isn't that interesting? So if you are successful and you get this 14-year term on the Supreme Court, just 7th Judicial District, what issues do you think you'll be focused on? What will that job look like for you?
So the Supreme Court's the court of general jurisdiction, which means they can hear almost any type of case.
Oh, interesting.
They hear all of the complex civil cases. So if your damages are over a certain amount, you would have to file in Supreme Court. So medical malpractice, slip and falls, labor law, union contract interpretation, constitutional violations, all of those types of issues. They also hear some of the higher level felony criminal cases. County court has jurisdiction over criminal cases, but Supreme Court, when they need help, they will shuffle some felony cases over to Supreme Court. And then ironically, all divorce cases have to be filed in Supreme Court, not family court.
That's weird, isn't it? I wonder why that is.
Very
some
weird.
Antiquated rule for some reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Supreme Court can transfer a case to family court, but it has to start in Supreme Court. So if you're getting a divorce, you're not going to family court.
Isn't that strange? But it is quite a workload, I'm assuming, right?
Yes, it is. And we have the current bench right now. There's 18 judges, 17 are Republicans.
Okay.
One is a Democrat who was cross-endorsed by all the major parties. He sits at the appellate division, though, so he's not at the trial court level anymore. And a lot of our Supreme Court judges currently have a criminal background. And so I think it would be very helpful to elect somebody who does have a strong civil background like I do to help take over some of that workload.
Sure. And we were talking about the campaign and knocking on the doors and all the fun that represents. How about endorsements? How have the endorsements been?
So again, for judicial candidates, it's kind of weird because there are some groups who aren't willing to endorse a candidate who really can't do anything for them, even if they win. I am so honored to have been endorsed by the Labor Council, as well as the United Auto Workers Union. I'm a CSEA union member. I have been since 2014, so that one meant a lot to me to get the 2 unions who do judicial endorsements. And then I've also been endorsed by Eleanor's Legacy, which is a group that endorses female political candidates.
Oh, interesting. So in closing, before we head out here, where can people find out more about your campaign? Do you have a website, those type of things?
I do, Skinner24.com.
Oh, wow. That's catchy.
Make it easy, right?
That's right. So in closing, what would you say to voters before they either early vote, starting on October 26th, or if they go into the voting booth on November 5th? What would you say?
I would give you the worst performance review I've ever gotten. It's that my innate sense of justice made it difficult for me to do my job well.
Well, there you go.
I was told that in the legal profession.
Wow. Okay.
I left that job.
Yes, I would hope.
I can do this job really well, and I consider it the highest form of public service that I could render, and that's all I want to do. Help and serve my community.
Aaron Skinner's been our guest, Supreme Court Justice, 7th Judicial District candidate. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Ranger 1000 equipped for whatever comes your way. If you have the know-how to take on what comes, the new Ranger 1000 delivers what you need to make short work of it.
Ithaca Recreation Sports, Route 13 in Newfield. Get outside and ride.
Is it most important Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Big Fox presents Preparing to Cast Your Vote, an informative special that takes a look at everything you need to know to cast your ballot this election season. This special will air at the following times. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you to Aaron Skinner for being on the program this morning. We've got a lot to discuss as we wrap up. Man, we are running late. Let's go to a viewer comment that I got distracted by. Okay, how can you this is from a viewer. How can you trust Trump and anything that comes out of Trump's mouth, such as his recent lies about 2020 being a peaceful transfer of power? He is mentally unfit to run a local garbage business, and you seem to think that Harris is the evil one. Thank you for the comment. All right, Bernie Sanders suggesting on CNN's The Source that Harris deserves the credit for the most progressive administration on domestic policy since FDR. Well, frankly, it's no great secret. I happen to believe that on domestic issues, President Biden has probably been the most progressive president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And I think he's done a lot of good work in a lot of areas, which I think he is not getting the kind of credit that he deserves. And Kamala Harris has been at his side throughout the whole process, and she deserves the credit. I think it's no great secret that the area that I and a lot of folks do have disagreement with in the Biden administration is the war in Gaza. Now, interestingly enough, CNN today, got a couple of comments here. CNN mentioning this and it's starting to make the rounds. Kind of surprised that CNN made it a top story. Coming from Andrew Kaczynski. He writes that Kamala Harris has pledged to prosecute oil companies over emissions. Now she's praising their record U.S. production. When Kamala Harris ran for president in 2019, she repeatedly warned oil companies they should be prepared to face hefty fines and even criminal prosecution under a future Harris administration for the role in contributing to climate change. Now, as the Democrat nominee, Harris is highlighting the country's record oil and gas production. She rarely talks about climate change, and despite having been a vigorous supporter of the Green New Deal, her campaign's website is light on climate policy details. It's a stark shift that illustrates the delicate politics of energy, but also how Harris has abandoned a number of progressive positions she held before joining Joe Biden's ticket in 2020. Interesting way you could look at that. Maybe suggesting there that Biden convinced her otherwise. I don't know. Something worth mentioning. We're going to talk about what Biden had to say in Pennsylvania. Everybody's in Pennsylvania. Are you going to see J.D. Vance today in Williamsport? He'll be holding a rally there. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's program, but we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Time to play a little bit of catch-up, running just a little bit late. Stay with us.
Wow. You found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
Drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, this may be your last chance to get Angel View at this low price. There is a strict limit of 2 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Order now.
Call 1-800-869-5346. That's 1-800-869-5346. Or visit getangelview.com. So call 1-800-869-5346.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. A beautiful view of Marcus Street. And Marcus Street is where we're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you for joining us. So Biden rebuked Trump in Pennsylvania yesterday, calling him a loser and arguing he's running for president again to stay out of jail. Maybe, well, an interesting line of attack there, as some have accused Biden and Harris of that kind of lawfare being used against Trump. More people are working today in America than any time since Trump left office. That's just a fact, he said. 401ks are strong, violent crime is down, murder is down, and fewer people are crossing the border, and Trump calls that a hellscape. He talks about America being a failed nation. Where's he from? It makes me angry. I say America's winning. We're the most powerful nation in the world and most respected nation in the world. Trump says we're losers, but the only loser I know is Donald Trump. The president also called Trump dishonest and mentioned his predecessor's 34 felony counts. Quote, I want to watch the sentence. I think he's running to stay out of jail, referring to the November 26th sentencing. You can see there, I think there is a level of desperation, as some in the media have said. Now let's go to the Trump campaign, because we've got a lot to get to, and we only have about 10 minutes here. Trump is going to join Fox News' Harris Faulkner at an all-women town hall in a battleground state of Georgia. The town hall will be filmed at a venue called the Reed Barn in Cumming, Georgia on Tuesday and air today at 11 a.m. on the Faulkner Focus. Ahead of the event, Faulkner underscored the importance of the female vote and for presidential candidates to have the opportunity to explain their platforms to the demographic. Quote, women constitute the largest group of registered and active voters in the United States, so it is paramount that female voters understand where the presidential candidates stand on the issues that matter most to them. I'm looking forward to providing our viewers with an opportunity to learn more about where former President Trump stands on these topics. Now, you know, Georgia, of course, is once again a battleground state. Early voting opened there yesterday. Numbers upwards of 300,000 voting on the first day of early voting in Georgia. Trump won the state back in 2016 against Hillary Clinton, and the state flipped blue in 2020, with Biden winning the state by 0.23% over Trump. Republican presidential nominee, obviously he's the presidential nominee. He will be speaking today, and you can catch that. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's program as well. Here's something interesting in the headline I did not expect to see. Perhaps you could call it breaking news. It came out early this morning. Former President Donald Trump is expected to work the fry cooker at a McDonald's in Pennsylvania this weekend after raising doubts about Vice President Kamala Harris's past employment at the fast food restaurant, according to a report. And that's been a question of whether or not she actually did work for McDonald's, because it became such an important part of her story. You know, now it seems to just be that she came from a working class family. A source familiar with the matter told the Philadelphia Inquirer the GOP presidential nominee will serve up some fast food at the Golden Arches during a campaign stop in the crucial swing state on Sunday. That'll be some Interesting photo ops there. Trump for weeks has questioned whether Harris actually worked at McDonald's, as the Democrat presidential nominee has claimed. He said back in September, "We don't want to hear fake promises, even something like she worked very long and hard hours over French fries at McDonald's. She never worked at McDonald's. It's a fake story." Now, we all know, it's no secret, that the former president is a big fan of McDonald's. I think I'm going to go to McDonald's in 2 weeks, actually. I'm going to work the French fries because I have worked longer and harder at McDonald's than she did, if I do that even for a half an hour, Trump said to Cheers at a recent rally. Now, Harris has said repeatedly over the years that she worked for McDonald's while getting her undergraduate degree in the 80s, including in a campaign ad released in August and in an interview with MSNBC in September. But there's no firm evidence, like an employment record or photo, to verify that claim, according to far-left Snopes. Yes, far-left Snopes even saying there's no proof of that employment. But Donald Trump going to be working the fryers at a campaign stop this weekend. I look forward to seeing the photos there. Trump acknowledged that reversing course on the Harris-Biden administration's immigration policies will be a very tough thing, predicting that those against his deportation plan will resort to propaganda. This was at a rally in Atlanta. He said, "We'll get some and we'll get them out, and then they'll get somebody else who has a nice look and a child, and that'll be the poster. It'll be, oh, how horrible." It's a very tough thing to fix, but we're going to fix it because we have no choice. And he's right. They were very good at that. You remember them talking about Trump locking kids up in cages at the time, and it was a policy that other past presidents, he is smart to reference the propaganda, but he told voters in Georgia that he plans to start with these horrible criminals, highlighting the case of Laken Riley, who we brought to you yesterday, that even former President Bill Clinton acknowledged that the alleged murderer of Lincoln Riley should have been vetted. And if you look at the time frame, the vetting process would have had to happen during the Biden-Harris administration. Laken was a brilliant young student, top in her class, going to be a great nursing student. Everybody admired her. She was killed viciously while out on a jog. She was assaulted, beaten, and horrifically murdered by an illegal alien. The savage monster that murdered Laken was let in and released into our country by Kamala Harris. He came in through open borders. Nobody even checked him. I can't believe how they allowed this country to become like this. It can't go on like this. We have to take a short break, though. Stay with us. I see a couple of comments coming in, and we'll read those when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant, so fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
Order call 1-800-970-9843. That's 1-800-970-9843, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
Our roof cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. A few comments before we head out the door here from viewers. Could the viewer elaborate on what policy makes Harris strong? I haven't heard any solid policy substance from Harris. That's in reference to a viewer who said that you can't, I'm paraphrasing, but can't trust Trump and what he says, and that he is mentally unfit to run a local garbage business, which I think is kind of insulting. To suggest that that's not a very difficult business to run, but anyway, so I can't speak for that viewer, obviously. Another comment, and I like this one a lot. So we had just mentioned that Donald Trump is going to work the fryers at a McDonald's at a campaign stop this weekend, and this viewer has a brilliant idea. First of all, I hope President Trump wears the outfit, or at least the hat. And then they hit on this gem. Maybe it could say MAGA Donald's, but look like the McDonald's hat. That's a great idea. MAGA Donald's. You got double there. You got the Donald's, and you got MAGA at the beginning. I love it. I was thinking that it would be funny if it was the old uniforms with the stripes. That would be kind of funny. Trump did get into that heated exchange. We mentioned it earlier on with the journalists over plans to impose high tariffs, telling the journalists, you have been wrong all your life. Yeah, we are out of time. All right. Let's go through a little bit of housekeeping here before we head out the door. Thank you to Aaron Skinner for being our guest this morning, running for New York State Supreme Court in the 7th Judicial District. There are 4 people running for 2 spots, 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans. We're going to have on as many of those guests as possible. Aaron Skinner this morning is part of the Democrat line, the Working Families line, and I keep forgetting the third Judicial Integrity line, which is an independence line. So we appreciate her being on the program. Her opponent, Stacey Romeo, she'll be on next week. I'll keep you highlighted and updated so you're prepared to see as many of our candidate interviews as possible. So I'll get you all that information. On tomorrow's program, technically a candidate, though he's running unopposed, Steuben County Sheriff Jim Allard will be joining us on tomorrow's broadcast. He'll join us in the studio, and we'll also learn about A21 Walk for Freedom, which is coming up on Saturday here in Corning in Centerway Square. We'll tell you all about that on tomorrow's program as well. And then on Friday, we'll be talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. John Buckley, friend of Frankly Speaking. So if you have any questions for either Allard or Buckley, please feel free to reach out at that number on the bottom of the screen. We'll do our best to get to those questions during the interview because there is a lot to cover with both guests. We haven't spoke with, Allard has been a little bit, but John Buckley has been quite a while. So we look forward to talking with Hornell Mayor John Buckley. Have a great day, everyone, and join us tomorrow morning and every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already.